Gents, let's get straight into it. Nick, your initial thoughts on that? I think humbling would be the right word, defeat for the US, and a bit of a wake-up call ahead of the World Cup. Japan were very good, but the US made them look even better, right? So what was your initial takeaway from that 2-0 defeat in Dusseldorf, Germany?
Yeah, I don't want to dramatize it. I don't. But I'm dispirited is how I feel. These were the games where you're trying out a couple of people to fill some spots. You're working out a system. You're not trying to tip your hand to your opponents coming ahead. But, the only reason I feel good at all, the silver lining, is that the group isn't great. And if I was in Japan's group facing Germany, Spain, and Costa Rica, or, flipping spots with Costa Rica, I would feel worse. But getting Wales first gives you a chance to feel good. Not that Wales is bad. That's not a shot at Wales at all. Yeah. But right now, I look at this team that it was a comedy of errors. The worst things coming together at once. Your two spirit animal midfielders having their worst games in the shirt for quite a while. And every other position was bad. I don't want to steal your thunder. So I'm dispirited is how I would say I'd sum it up.
Andy, in Kansas City, you feeling the same? Because Japan were good, like we said, but the US, 0 shots on target for the first time in a very, very long time. So a very disjointed display from front to back. Japan's high pressing was very good. The US didn't really seem to have any kind of plan B to deal with that. And that's what you kind of want to see, right? A young team, but a team figuring it out on the fly. And they did improve slightly in the second half, but only because they took more risks and chucked more people forward. But they were exposed ruthlessly on the break in the end as well with that 2-0 defeat. So what are your initial takeaways? You can already see a lot of people getting their comments and questions coming in up on the screen, and we'll get to them in a minute. So keep them coming in, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. But Andy Edwards, your thoughts?
Yeah. It's hard not to be dispirited. I think that's probably the right word. I think that's the right balance between, belief in what has happened through qualifying and the entire process since Berhalter took over, and the team that he has managed to build with some really quality players. It's had some good performances, some decent results as well. And then put that with what we saw on the field on Friday, because like you said, Joe, no shots on target. I mean, absolutely putrid from the U.S. men's national team. It, to me, and I'm glad that Nick brought up the midfield and Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie having arguably their worst games in a long time. While I agree with that, I also don't think that we've seen much real quality or greatness from either of those for the national team in quite a while as well. And I think it's due to a fit of the system and the way that Berhalter has his team playing right now. He's very focused on getting the ball forward through the center of the field. And I can understand that. It's where arguably your best and most important players are. But if you look at Berhalter's kind of coaching career and what got him into the U.S. men's national team job was a really, really strong stint with Columbus Crew and MLS. And how did that team play? For anyone that doesn't know, it was all about wingers. It was all about wingbacks, overlapping, getting forward, crossing into the box. We see none of that from the U.S. men's national team, partially because they don't really have those type of wide attackers. They've got the fullbacks and Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson. Robinson being injured right now, I think, is a big issue. He's injured fairly frequently, and if that is such a crippling blow to this team, it just feels like everything's being held together by shoestring and bubble gum. And 2 months before the World Cup, that's not a place you want to be.
It's not 59 days until they kick off the World Cup campaign against Wales. So there's not a lot of time to figure it out. Only one 90-minute game left against Saudi Arabia, which we will preview later on in this live show. That's coming up next Tuesday. And we'll be doing another live show for that as well. So get your questions today, your questions in for that live after the Saudi Arabia game. We'll be going live around 3:50 Eastern once that game finishes. So mark that down on your calendar. IA's got an interesting comment here. Can we get John Brooks back? Nick, I know you are a huge fan of John Brooks. I was sat there watching this game thinking either Brooks or Tim Ream, one of those two, should be in this team for their ability to play out of the back. And if Greg Berhalter wants to do that, which he likes to do, and the US couldn't do it today because Japan pressed them so high, then that's a big glaring problem, right? Was that the main problem for the US today? That was it staggering number of giveaways in the first 35 minutes, 28 giveaways in their own defensive third. I mean, you are going to get absolutely ripped to shreds in the World Cup if you keep doing that.
It's definitely the case. The one thing that John Brooks gives you is he will spray a long ball all over the pitch. And with Adams and McKennie and De La Torre out there, let John Brooks be the quarterback, essentially. I think the last time we saw Brooks might have been the Canada game, and he made a mistake on the goal, but there was a lot of him spraying the long balls around. But I would also argue it wasn't the biggest problem. And I don't want to divert attention from that discussion. We should talk about the center backs. The biggest problem was what we led off with and what Andy said. The midfield is a problem. And Luca De La Torre, I think, is a guy who can do the job. But now we're learning, and that, sorry, I don't want to get distracted by the fact that we're not getting clear messaging out of Greg Berhalter, because De La Torre has not played much at all since going to Celta Vigo, and it looked like it. And I thought we were supposed to be a form team, which is where Jordan, I think we're just calling him Jordan now, is supposed to be in this team. And we also learned what a glaring absence it is. And it's a little sad to say this when we've had Michael Bradley in the midfield, but a youngster like Yunus Musa was a glaring absence, I thought, today.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really good comments, Andy, coming in from James. I mean, the away games, that's an issue throughout CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. And at home, you know, obviously, if all games were in Florida, they'd be doing great. But I think there's so many issues. Let's focus on the key ones today. And again, James, another thing, centre-back, that comment there, centre-back partnership unknown, strikers unknown. There was no one today for the US that I thought really stepped up and said, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity. They were very nervous. I mean, some of the noises out of the camp in Germany all week have been from Berhalter and his staff saying, well, the team, you know, there are a little bit of nerves there. You can tell we're only 59 days away from a World Cup, and you can see that in the play. I mean, that's a little bit concerning, right? It's a big moment, but maybe this can be sort of a wake-up call, as you said at the very top of this, and could be a really good learning experience for this young team, because that's the only real positive I can take from that performance today, that they can use it going forward and that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing and the first thing we want to do after a poor performance is highlight like one spot or one player, whether it was a player on the field or a player that was missing. And to me, I think it's right to bring up John Brooks. I think it's right to bring up Yunus Musa. I think it's right to bring up Anthony Robinson. But I don't think you can pinpoint just one of those and say that's the problem, or this is the change that needs to be made. To me, all of those things are very, very closely connected to one another. I think not having a passer there along the back line, you know, if it's going to be Aaron Long alongside Walker Zimmerman, then you're not going to have that ability. And for Berhalter, who has made it very clear that he wants this team to play with possession, with style, and you know, really move the ball forward on the ground, there's a big disconnect there. The personnel and the ideas are just not matching up. And you've got Yunus Musa in the center midfield when he's healthy, who, you know, I rate him very highly. He's clearly one of the most talented central midfielders that the U.S. has ever had. But to me, it's almost a difference of, well, are we turning the ball over in the defensive third or like 15 or 20 yards further up the field after he carries past two defenders, holds on a beat too long, and then either has it tackled away or just passes it straight. So it gets, without all of those number one pieces in the lineup, it's hard to really, I think, gauge what this team is going to be at the World Cup. But at the same time, you can't guarantee that you're going to have all of those players at the World Cup either. And so you have to find solutions. And I don't think that's what we saw today. I was very frustrated by seeing 4 subs at halftime, just completely chop and change almost half the team, because they're struggling. Yes, it was a horrific first 45 minutes. But if that happens at the World Cup, you have to continue to play the second half of that game and find your way out of it. I don't think we're going to see 4 subs at halftime in the World Cup. And so it just doesn't make sense to me, I think, right now to do that at this time. So just all of what we've heard from Berhalter about what he wants the team to be, how he wants them to play, how he's going to manage the squad, and all of those things just seem to be running counter to one another right now, and nothing is matching up, nothing is lining up. And I think that's exactly what it looked like on the field today.
Yeah, very disjointed. I'm not saying this as an excuse, but let's think about the players who are missing today. Obviously, Carter Vickers and Chris Richards, one of those guys will probably start at the World Cup, especially given today's performance at centre-back. Anthony Robinson, Yunus Musa, Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah. I mean, there's a lot of key players there that the US are missing. So I just want to throw that out there as well. There's a lot of criticism, and rightly so. That was a very bad display. But I mean, Nick, some of the questions coming in and comments, some really good ones. Keep them coming in, guys. But Dale Boy here says, England are far better at pressing and superior to Japan in quality. has the US been hyped too much by the US soccer media?
Well,
discuss,
yeah.
Nick Mendola.
It's a loaded statement because you don't want to. I think we have a lot of awesome peers in our media, so I want to make that clear right out the gate. But
Yes.
There is a lot of kid gloves giving to the U.S. Difficult questions are rebuked or not answered. Greg Berhalter is very much of, I don't think you watched the game. I'm Greg Berhalter. When you ask him any sort of difficult question, and it becomes talks about his sneakers or how the guys are coming together and how about that big win. It's never, hey, you still don't know about your center backs, or why is Aaron Long there? And again, it always sounds like I'm dogging Aaron Long. I think he's a fine, okay player. I just, think he should be 7th in the pool. I hate right now, and this is nothing against Del Boy, we're talking about England. Okay, well, Daniel James, Brennan Johnson, Kiefer Moore, and Gareth Bale press a lot better than Japan did necessarily in terms of individual athleticism. Yeah. So you're going to get to, my whole thing has been, let's not get to England with that being a must-win game. And so when we talk about the guys who are missing, Christian Pulisic, they'll be better. Yunus Musa, they'll be better. Tim Weah, Jordan Pefok, all these guys, they'll be better. We don't know that they're going to be better at the back. And on this show alone, we've been talking about center back. And here's the thing. Right now, it looks like you're going to play Matt Turner, who knows how to stop a shot and is great. It was a little shaky in possession. So are you going to adapt, Greg Berhalter? Are your comments now a little disingenuous, or are you making this up as you go along? And I really hope he's disingenuous.
I agree, because you could hear, I think it was Matt Turner's voice. He was pretty booming and loud, and the stadium wasn't packed there in Dusseldorf. And you could hear him saying, go long, go direct to Sam Vines and just kind of get us up the pitch and get us away from playing out of the back. But then there was almost that confusion and just befuddledness almost with the US team about, hey, we should be playing it out from the back through midfield. That isn't working. What do we do now? And again, no plan B. Does that then say up top there's an issue with not having a Jordan Pefok there to hold the ball up? And that brings us on to a very good question from Ethan Muller, Andy. Says, why is Ferreira still here, guys? Also, Greg ain't it. I think I've known that, just coming to terms with it. So two-part there. I mean, going forward, Ferreira had that really, really good chance after about, 5-6 minutes when Sergino Dest surged down the right, clipped the ball in, and he put the header under no pressure whatsoever over from 5 yards out. And that was pretty much it, apart from a Brendan Aronson curler in the second half. That was it for the US in terms of offensive output. So,
well, not offensive output, attacking output, because it was offensive.
In one sense of the word, of course, very offensive. So, Andy, do you think we learned a lot about the forward options today in terms of Josh Sargent came on obviously at halftime, didn't see a lot of the ball? Is it now Jordan Pefok sat there thinking, I'm going to get a chance at the World Cup now? Or are we just taking 90 minutes and 2:45s to making too big of a deal of this? Because a lot of us didn't think this would work. And I mean, it's troubling. I'm actually more alarmed by this display than any other display in the last 3 or 4 years from the US. I'm pretty sure. And it comes at a bad time.
Yeah. How can you not be? Because, I mean, if you just look at the calendar and you see what month it is, you see when the World Cup is. And to think that we've been building towards this for, we've been talking about the U.S. men's national team, on this show for over 2 years now. And it's been a process, and it has felt like from when we started well before World Cup qualifying, I believe even with the Gold Cup and the Nations League in that summer, it felt like there was progression that was happening. And it feels like the last international window was okay. It feels like massive steps have been taken back since that time. Yeah. I do think center forward, obviously it's a problem. We've talked about it every single time we've talked about the national team. I think if you're going to try and go, you're trying to go long with Gio Reyna, Brendan Aronson, Jesus Ferreira. Nobody over 5'9" along the that's not going to work either. And so the absence of a ball playing center back, unable to get the ball into the midfield, who is then unable to progress the ball, forces you to go long to a center forward who is not suited to playing long ball. It's just one problem rolls into another, and they compound each other. And you have possession that looks like it did today, even though they had nearly 60%. And I'm sure we'll hear about that at some point. Well, we got beat 2-0, but we had a lot of possession. It's not good possession. If you don't have the ball, if you're not getting the ball into the final third, if you're not connecting passes into the final third, it doesn't matter how much possession you have. It's simply, where are you possessing the ball in the field before you give it away to Japan, who, well, one, it should be said, we're very, very, very good on the press. If you're looking for a team kind of under the radar to back, that, like, Japan wouldn't be a bad one. And the way that they got onto the counterattack, I think, is exactly what you want to see from the U.S. men's national team as well. But they're not able to put either of those components together to generate any sort of scoring chances, let alone a shot on target. So it's just, disjointed. You said it earlier, Joe. Disjointed is the only word that I think perfectly describes what we saw today.
Well, and Elliot Smitty is just saying exactly what I wrote in my what we learned and recap of this game over on Pro Soccer Talk and NBCSports.com, that had Japan had a clinical finisher throughout this game, it would have been a lot worse. And if Matt Turner had not played well, it would have been a lot worse for the US. So, Nick, I mean, that's focused on probably one of the only positives to come from this experience in this game, was that Matt Turner is, for me, the undisputed number one now, right? He's well ahead of Zach Steffen. We all kind of wondered, he's not playing at Arsenal. Is he going to be sharp enough? Well, he answered that question. And between now and the World Cup, he's going to play, 5 games in the Europa League and 1 League Cup game. So they get at least 6 outings in the next 2 months. So he should be fine and absolutely raring to go for Qatar. So any other positives apart from Matt Turner's display? I'm trying to look around here, but there's a lot of negatives for the US today.
I liked Aronson's ability to compete continually when not at his best game. I mean, we know he's a fireball. He should have drawn a red card or at least a yellow card in a review. I mean, that was a very bad tackle. I think it was Ito, the central midfielder, who was otherwise quite good. Look, I would look to that. I thought playing out of position, Reyna had a couple of moments where he was clearly available for the ball, but the fact that we're deconstructing our opinions to saying, well, what are the other positives? One of the offensive players, attacking players, was getting available for the ball, guys. Like that's my third point. The inconsistency of this team, even with injury, is pretty shocking. They haven't won back-to-back games since 2021, and even that was with a club break, if you will, in between the games. They don't win away from home. So, look, I guess what I'm excited about is that Matt Turner stopped shots. And if it was Zach Steffen, who's a possession goalkeeper, I would be nervous that he wasn't playing, because you really want him in the flow of things. Matt Turner, less of, not a terrible possession goal. At least he's taking shots in practice, right?
So we're heading into this World Cup right where we left off the 2014 World Cup, with Tim Howard making how many saves in the round? So we're going to pick up right there at the next World Cup. Okay.
Accurate. Yeah.
That's all right. Just for old time's sake, right? Just that 8 years never actually happened in between.
Wales scored against Belgium in a meaningful game. I believe it was 1-1 for a little while there too. Belgium is fantastic. And if you think that Wales and Japan are going to press your back line, imagine expecting to get out of the group stage. You're going to face a team that, I don't know. I'm going from, as we talk, and it's all Andy's fault, really. Andy pushes a lot of the same buttons that I've already thought, and maybe what is he? He says the quiet part loud sometimes, and I'm going from dispirited to demoralized a little bit. So hopefully by the end of this, we can be back at dispirited before Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's a journey. We're going on a journey, guys. We have been on this journey. We are going. Okay, some really good comments coming in. I want to highlight some of these. Okay, so we've got some questions coming up about Canada. Who's going to go further, the US or Canada, at this World Cup? I mean, Canada's got a tough group, to be fair to them. But I think, looking right now, Canada might have a better opportunity to get to the last 16, because I am concerned about this. I think Wales, I've said it to you guys, are a really horrible team to play against. They'll just bunker in. They'll let the US have a lot of the ball, but then on the counter, they can really hurt the US. And what I saw in that second half today, when the US actually had the ball, yes, they were 1-0 down, they had to go for it. But being that exposed and just that, again, disjointed, didn't fill me with a lot of confidence, because that's one thing that Wales are not. They're not spectacular. They're not going to rip you to shreds. They're not going to keep the ball a lot. But they know what they're doing. That's a team that's played together for pretty much the last 6-7 years since the 2016 Euros when they made it all the way to the semi-finals. So, yeah, have at it, guys. Canada, I think they actually might have a chance of getting out of that group, and I'm not sure how I feel about the US, but you go. Andy,
I think
in particular, let's go.
Sorry, Andy.
No, I think there's a lot of smoke. No disrespect to Canada, but a lot of smoke and mirrors. I think with that team, there's a lot of really good top end talent, which I think the U.S. lacks. But I think with regards to the rest of the squad, the middle, where the U.S. is stronger and they've got a lot of just like solid players that we are asking to be spectacular, that we are kind of asking and almost forcing into star roles. The U.S. will. So I think the combination of the group and just kind of the squad makeup gives the U.S. a slightly better chance. But if the World Cup started tomorrow, would either of you think that the U.S. gets out of the group? After watching, if that was the final game, if this was a traditional World Cup setup where they're playing 2 or 3 friendlies the week before, and that's the final game before the World Cup, would you give them any chance?
I'd give them a chance, but I would favour Wales and England to get out of the group. That's what I would say.
I at this point, I'm not sure I would bet. I thought the U.S. is CONCACAF's best chance to get out of a group because Mexico starts with Poland and plays Argentina as well. And Costa Rica's group is a nightmare. Spain, Germany, Japan, Canada. There's similar problem to the U.S. They don't have defenders. They don't have defenders. They have a world-class goalkeeper. Maybe one of them, a guy who could be I mean, he Champions League experience, has been under siege before against big boys. I think that Canada has a better philosophy. They have a better understanding of the game, but I think their defending is a real issue as well.
That's a great comment there. Canada is a more complete team. I'd say like Wales, they are solid. We saw it all through qualifying. They can set themselves up to be hard to beat. And then they have David, Larin, others in attack who can really hurt opponents. But they've got a tough group, to be fair. Belgium's going to win that group, and I think it's between Canada and Croatia. Yeah. And Croatia are okay, but they're one of those teams, again, you're never quite sure whether they're over the hill. I mean, they struggled in the Euros last time out.
Played well yesterday.
Canada could push Croatia all the way to get out of that group.
I think what Canada has is and I wish the U.S. had, they have a very clear understanding of this is who we are. This is what we want to do. And I think that 3.5, almost 4 years into the Berhalter tenure, we have an idea of what they want to be, but we've not actually seen them produce it against anyone above like a Gold Cup group stage opponent. And that to me is the worrying thing. Is as ambitious as it is, you could say, well, the talent pool is better for the US than Canada, so they should be more ambitious. But, if it's looking like it's looking on the field, then, does it matter? I guess is really the question.
Yeah. Well, also, how much of Canada's juices come from beating the US? I mean, does that look that great today? I mean, I know they have a win against Mexico, I believe, at home in frigid weather, but most of Canada's good results, their performance has been, even going back to Nations League, right? That's against the U.S. And today, here's what I'm scared about, especially with Weston McKennie today, and maybe it leaked into Tyler Adams as well. This looked like an entitled performance again, something that we were supposed to have out of the way. I can goof around a little. I can do the fancy stuff. Yeah. They looked like they expected to walk all over a very good Japan team.
Yeah, you're right. And I actually tweeted about that. I was like, well, the positive is that Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams are never both going to play this bad at the same time because they gave it away so often. McKennie for the first goal obviously was caught out. And Tyler Adams is so safe usually in everything that he does, and he was giving the ball away very often as well. So it was very disappointing to see.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.